So for today's church visit, I'm expecting a plain Jane type of worship service. Worship music, sermon, bada bing, bada boom, and done. So I'm not expecting to learn a whole lot to dive deeper into the theology, but I want to be shoulder to shoulder with Christians, brothers, sisters in faith to understand what a Seventh-day Adventist church is like. So, going to drive over there. Let's go. So, got back from the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I need to preface this video real briefly first. With these videos, I don't want to come across as Mr. Church Critic and try and find faults when it comes to a church that just is not connecting with me. And at the same time, though, I want to be real. I want to be honest. I want to be authentic with these videos at the same time. And I'm coming in with certain biases and certain past experiences that may create some type of negative perception when I first encounter something. So with this particular church visit, my first impressions were not good. And I'll get into that in a minute. But everything was flipped upside down later on, resulting in a really positive experience. First off, when I got there, there was no one greeting me at the door or anyone. And walked inside, looked like there were two women. I want to say they were probably around retirement age. And they didn't greet me at the door because I think they were more entertained by a little child that had come in. Looked like he was brand new to walking. So they were distracted and they got talking with the parents. When I went through the narthex area, that little child that was walking, he was getting more attention from everybody. And again, I just kind of scooted right by. I think I was supposed to be given a piece of paper as my bulletin, but no one gave me anything. So I got into the worship area, took a seat. With my peripheral vision, I could kind of tell there were some retired women to my side, and they looked very stoic. Like they weren't really moving at all. And I just felt, because no one said hi to me, no one welcomed me. I kind of learned how important that is to have someone at least say hi. So you kind of have some kind of personal human contact when you walk in. And when that doesn't happen, man, it just kind of snowballs from there if you're a first-time visitor. It's been a very long time since I wasn't welcomed. So service started, and I would say 3 women and 1 gentleman got up on stage, and they kind of led the worship hymns and procession. I would say probably their average age had to be about 65 years old. And it felt so much like an 80s TV televangelist type of show. Like Hour of Power, Crystal Cathedral kind of feel to it. And it just left a negative impression in my head. So after the first hymn, and sure enough, a bunch of children got out with some collection plates, and they started serving the offering. So here's what the offering cards looked like. And you just put your money in there. They were very detailed when it came to where the tithings were going. But I've never been to a church before where the tithing was done 5 minutes at the start of worship. So after that got done, and so at this point, I'm turned off by the 80s vibe. I'm turned off because no one has welcomed me. I don't have any connection with anyone in this church. I'm surrounded by about 50 strangers. And then Jose got up. And as I learned, the pastor for this church, I don't know where he was. He must be on vacation, sabbatical, I don't know. But Jose got up, and I would say he was probably mid-20s, well-dressed. During the sermon, I think he mentioned he was from the Dominican Republic. He was a complete fresh face for everything that had happened so far. And it's fascinating because then he was very relatable. He was likable, charismatic. So his sermon talked about examples of great faith, living faith. And one thing that he mentioned is some of the best examples of that came from unbelievers. So think of the centurion in the New Testament. Think of Saul to Paul. So his sermon focused on Naaman. Who's Naaman? I didn't remember. So he goes into 2 Kings, and he kind of mentions how Naaman was a commander of the Syrian army, and he had gained favor with God. Not an Israelite, a Syrian, the enemy. And as he continued with his sermon, it kind of mentioned how he had a wife, and the wife had a Hebrew slave, a young girl. And the problem with Naaman is that he had leprosy. He was this great warrior, he was this great general, but with leprosy, that was kind of his Achilles heel. And in the story, there's a bunch of political things going on, and eventually he tries to get Elisha to cure his leprosy. Elisha is basically like, nah, I don't want to be there. So he sends off a messenger boy to tell Naaman to go into the ugly, dirty bathwater of the Jordan River and wash himself 7 times or whatever. And Naaman is furious. Like he's, the big macho man. He wants to have Elisha, this amazing prophet, appear to him because he's Mr. Important. But the slave girl kind of mentions and kind of convinces Naaman that, don't go all crazy on this. Like, believe in God and repent. And Naaman repents. He goes into the Jordan River. Sure enough, he's cured of his leprosy. His skin is made anew. And that's kind of the story. So with Hosea, he kind of mentions where it's like, yeah, with God, sometimes the best examples of salvation, of faith, it can start from someone as young as a young child. So I'm just like, Jose, where did you come from? This was he was a web designer. He wasn't a pastor, but it was probably one of the best sermons I've heard during my whole 52 churches and 52 weeks so far. So just absolutely phenomenal. As I was leaving, a gentleman walked up to me. He shook my hand, and he thanked me for visiting. And I'm like, I didn't know anyone knew that I was a visitor because no one had said anything to me. So further walking out, I shook hands with Jose. Just told him, man, your sermon was so fresh. I really appreciated it. And I'm just about to walk out, and a lady invited me to join downstairs for a little potluck. In the past, as Mr. Introvert, I never would accept that. But for this current journey, I'm like, you know what? Why not? So walked downstairs and waited for their potluck to start. So eventually, I want to say her name was Grandma Mo. She introduced herself, and she had been talking to another newcomer named Tony. And Tony was also talking with Tony. It's like he almost was kind of like me to a certain extent. Like he was visiting different churches and trying to find his own truth for himself. So even though we had only been talking for 2 minutes, when we joined line, everyone thought that we were together as friends. And it was like, no, we just met each other a few minutes ago too. So got some food, and eventually we both decided to just sit next to Jose and his friend. And we got talking, and just fantastic conversation. Just kind of learn about each other. He also did because I was curious. It's like, okay, you're a web designer, but you're so gifted with today's sermon. How'd you do that? And he kind of mentioned, it's like, yeah, I don't want to copy anyone. I want it to be fresh. I want it to be me. So one thing I didn't learn is, why is a Seventh-day Adventist church on Saturdays? So as I was walking to my car, I bumped into Tony again. And we got talking, and just due to, we got really deep in a conversation, and we were probably talking for a good 20 minutes in the parking lot. eventually the whole idea about Seventh-day Adventists with the church service on Saturdays got brought up. And he had done some research on this. So the thing that he told me is in the year 321, the Roman Emperor Constantine, he was, I guess with the Romans at that time, like they worshipped a sun god at the dawn of each Sunday. That was the Roman custom. So they would pray to their sun god Sunday mornings. Here's the thing. When it came to the Sabbath, and I think with a lot of Christians, we always think of the Sabbath on Sunday. But if you think about it, the 7 days of creation, the 7th day of the week is Saturday. So the Sabbath is Saturday. Why did it change to Sunday? So the reason that he researched, and I did a Google search myself, and sure enough, it's there. So I kind of want to investigate it a little bit more. But Constantine kind of jumped on the Christian bandwagon a little bit, but kind of was trying to keep his pagan religion going on with the sun god. And with the Catholic Church, they decided to kind of make it where the Sundays would be the day of church, would be the new type of Sabbath day. And with Seventh-day Adventists, they want to keep with the original of the Sabbath being on Saturday. And it's like, is that true? Like, it just makes my head spin to a certain extent. And he kind of brought up where it's like, yeah, with the Protestant Reformation, like they split from the Catholic Church, but for whatever reason, they kept the Sundays as a Sabbath. I was doing a little bit of research before filming this when it comes to, okay, where in the Bible is it where Jesus talks about the Sabbath being okay to be on a Sunday? Jesus never mentioned it, but there's a couple mentions about the disciples having a worship on a Sunday, and there's a mention from Paul as well. I need to do more research on that, but that just kind of just threw me for what's going on with that. But yeah, that was pretty much my entire experience with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Terrible first impression, completely restored and made fresh as soon as Jose got up and started talking. So I think it kind of shows the importance of having young blood, of having someone new within a church to really kind of revitalize and bring new people in.